This story happened when I moved back to Tokyo from the US in 2016. I'm originally from Japan, but my parents and I moved to the United States when I was just 6 years old. On the first day in a new high school, I was really shy and I was rather new to the community. I considered myself a rather shy person. I was a kid in a new area. It was the first day of school, and I sat down on an appropriate-looking school bench and looked around me. I instantly noticed a girl waving and walking towards me. Her name was Ami, and we would soon become great friends in the future. She later introduced me to her friend group, and I liked them instantly. They were very positive and extremely nice to me. Their names were Suki and Rumiko. Before I knew it, I had already found myself a new home. It felt like I was living there my whole life. One sunny day, we were having a picnic during our lunch break. Eventually, the conversation shifted towards urban legends. Suki started telling us about these, and she said they were allegedly real. She told us a scary story about a girl who appeared to be cut in half. Many people reported seeing her at night. Essentially, people claimed they saw a ghost girl with her guts hanging visibly out of her body. While this obviously terrified me, I was always the skeptical kind towards folklore and legends. I personally believed that they were just made for children to behave or something to scare people with. Suki eventually asked her grandfather about the story, and he explained it to her. Apparently, this thing was called a teke teke. Legend had it that a girl was murdered by her classmates on a railroad. Her body was cut in half when they left her on the rails, and a train ran her over. And now, the ghost haunts people who walk by railroads at night. Suki eventually told us this, and there was a short silence. We all looked at each other and laughed out loud, except for Suki. She was dead serious. I told her that she'd been watching too many horror movies, and that things like this just don't exist in real life. We giggled a bit more, but Suki's face remained stone cold. She really believed it. I commended Suki's efforts to scare us, but let her know promptly that she failed. She rolled her eyes, and she seemed visibly upset. I knew she was a big fan of this stuff, but I never thought she'd believe it. She then told us, "Okay, if you girls are so sure that it's fake, why don't we go test it ourselves? We don't have anything to lose, right?" My laughter stopped immediately. While I didn't believe in the legends, I was still hesitant to go out in the middle of the night to some abandoned area. I was willing to prove that ghosts didn't exist, but not that badly. I had no problem proving Suki wrong, but crazy people and animals in the middle of the night were an actual threat. "So, are we going to some abandoned canal or sketchy location to prove this?" I asked Suki. "No, the trial will take place in our school," Suki said. I let out a sigh of relief. I mean, it was our school. We've all been there before, and there's plenty of people at all hours. "So, what will we do?" I asked Suki. Suki told us that we would be trying to summon a girl named Hanako-san. The urban legend regarded a girl who committed suicide on the third stall of the third floor of her school. We would have to enter that stall of our school, say her name, and punch 3 times on the stall doors. Then, she might appear. We decided to meet after our extracurricular activities in a third-floor toilet at around 7 p.m. For context, I joined a few classes where I volunteered to help my art teachers at school. It was a great way to spend my free evenings. Making origami and hanging out with people my age beat being bored at home any day. The extracurricular itself ended at around 7 p.m., so it was a perfect time to meet with the girls in the bathroom. There really weren't going to be any kids to bother us, and the school was technically open at this time. And so we proceeded with our plan. Roughly after 7 p.m., we met in the toilet. Suki had already prepared a few candles and warned us not to turn on any lights. She had her hood up. It was already giving me the creeps. We stood in a circle and looked at each other with straight faces. It was starting to look like some sort of cult. At this point, I was already getting creeped out. She rose her finger to her mouth and let us know that we were supposed to be silent during this whole time. She then took a red pencil out of her bag and drew something on the third stall. She told us quietly to hold each other's hands, and we did. We held each other's hands tightly, and Suki started mumbling something under her breath. She then said loudly 3 times, "Hanako-san, can you hear me?" I closed my eyes out of fear. At this point, I even started to doubt myself and believe that something might actually appear. My heart was racing and my palms were sweaty. My legs started to give out. I slowly opened my eyes. Nothing was there. Suki tried a few more times, but after a few more minutes she gave up and we left the stall. I was beyond relieved. Nothing happened. I looked at the other girls and they seemed a bit spooked but relieved as well. Suki finally gave in and said maybe we were right. She put out the candles and we packed our stuff and left. It was already dark outside and I knew my mom would be mad. I forgot to text her earlier that I would be later than usual. When we left school, I tried to reach inside my backpack and find my phone to text my mom. I shuffled around, but it wasn't there. Damn it, I must have left it in the windowsill of the bathroom. I looked up at that bathroom window, and the thought of going back in there sent chills up my spine. I eventually excused my friends and ran into the building. There was no one there except for me and the janitor working the late shift. I went up the stairs and slowly went by the bathroom doors. There was a dead silence by the opening. No lights were on. I was afraid to go in there. I heard a rumbling noise from the inside. No way I'm going in there, I told myself. But I stopped for a second and thought about it. I'm not gonna leave my phone in there. If I allow that to happen, someone's just gonna take it the next day. And what, I'm gonna allow that to happen because of something fake? And what would I tell to my mom after losing a $1,000 phone? No way. I'm going in. I walked in and saw my phone straight away at the end of the bathroom. I tried turning on a light, but it wasn't working. That's weird. I had no time to waste, so I ran quickly to get my phone. I was happy to have it. But before I turned around and waved to my friends outside, I heard a thudding sound behind me. This time, twice as loud. It was coming from the third stall. I was paralyzed by fear. I looked up and down the stall and spotted a brown robe swinging over it. There was blood coming out from the bottom of it. I didn't want to see anything more. I ran out of the toilet as fast as I could, never even thinking about looking back. I told no one about it and tried to block it from my mind. If it really happened, this would destroy my mental health and the perception of my world. It couldn't be true. I couldn't have seen a real ghost. It can't be. As I came back home, I tried to go to sleep, but I couldn't close my eyes. I was so afraid she would come to me. I was up all night on guard, looking around my room. I even had a nightstand lamp turned on because I couldn't see the whole room clearly. I felt like a wreck the next day. My mom tried to ask me what's wrong. I looked so tired and paranoid, but I didn't speak a word to her during breakfast. I was paranoid and terrified of the thought of going to my first class. It was on the 3rd floor. But what I saw as I walked up the stairs was somehow even more petrifying. The toilet doors were blocked by a few police officers, and around them was yellow police tape. One of my friends approached me and told me about a horrific incident. Apparently, a lower grade girl committed suicide yesterday right after we left the bathroom. She waited for us to leave and then attempted to cut her wrist. That didn't work, so she hung herself. It then clicked, and I realized what I saw last night. It wasn't a ghost, it was a person. I was an eyewitness to that girl taking her own life, and I did nothing. I couldn't believe I just ran away in anticipation of it being a ghost. I burst into tears, still telling no one that I was there. Afraid of the consequences, I just told my friends that she must have came in there after I retrieved my phone. It may not be a ghost, but the guilt of what happened that night will haunt me for the rest of my life.